Shalom, like to say, call on Allah, Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahshai, Ba'ashem, Kakadash, double honor to the apostles of El's Great Millstone, peace, salutations, and hope for elect. And I made titles lesson, serve the Lord in the days of thy youth. And, pretty much that's the best time to, serve the Most High is when, you're a young man. A lot of brothers usually come in this truth, in their late teens or early 20s. It's usually like the average age brothers come in. And, that's the best time to really serve the Lord, because at that point you're pretty much a young man. And, you pretty much are growing into, adulthood, things of that nature. Esau considers you adult by the age of 18 or whatever the case is, but realistically, I know Apostle Tar mentioned that like by the age of 12 you were considered a man because you pretty much have, your testosterone developed to where you could have children at that age. And that's, pretty much true, but you're not going to be physically capable of, fighting people that are pretty much older than you. Usually when you're physically capable, it's like at some point in high school, eventually you will pretty much be, physically capable of, taking on people that's, like a decade older than you and some change and so forth. But for the most part, I want to bring out some scriptures in a little bit that makes this lesson edifying. First scripture I'm going to start off with is Ecclesiastes chapter 12 verse 1. It says, "Remember now thy creator in the days of thy youth, while the evil days come not, nor the years draw nigh, when thou shalt say, I have no pleasure in them." And that pretty much right there shows you that that's like the best, time to serve the Lord, when you're at your liberty, when things is going good in society. And as it says in, the book of Hebrews, 12th chapter, verse 6, it says, "For whom the Lord loveth he chasteneth, and scourgeth every son whom he receiveth. If ye endure chastening, Yahweh dealeth with you as with sons. For what son is he whom the Father chasteneth not? But if ye be without chastisement, whereof all are partakers, then are ye bastards and not sons. Furthermore, we have had fathers of our flesh which corrected us, and we gave them reverence. Shall we not much rather be in subjection unto the Father of spirits and live? For they verily for a few days chasten us after their own pleasure, but he for our profit, that we might be partakers of his holiness. Now no chastening for the present seemeth to be joyous, but grievous. Nevertheless, afterward it yieldeth the peaceable fruit of righteousness unto them which are exercised thereby." And you see, then that's the beauty of like going through like the affliction, because Apostle Paul said this is a light affliction, whatever we're going through, which it may seem like to the world like, damn, we really ain't profiting, we really ain't, making much moves with our lives and things of that nature. We not really benefiting like how like people in the world are benefiting. But at the same time, it's like, the Lord got something for you on the other side. And for those that's on the house of mourning, there's going to be a flip side to it eventually. While everybody's going to be mourning, you're going to be feasting. And people are going to see the reward of the righteous. And this is the benefits of serving the Lord, when he first comes into you in your life. Some guys were lucky enough to have the Lord come into their life, at the young years of their life. And, late teens, early 20s is pretty young in a way. Some brothers probably even got it, maybe around the age in middle school that they found out about the truth, which is really, good. But, they say, the earlier you come in this thing, like brother said, that's going to be more demons you have to face. So of course the Most High has to give you the spirit to bear with it and deal with it, because it's not an easy thing. But at the same time, it's like You know, there's a lot of benefits that comes with it, but the punishment, the affliction of dealing with it could be overbearing. And that's what a lot of people need to realize. You know, a lot of people may envy a brother because of his position and the ranking that he has in the truth, but you know, sometimes some people really need to understand it's a great reward, but at the same time, the misery and the pain and affliction that comes with it is, you know, it could weigh a ton on your mind and even on your spirit. Like, but for the most part, you know, as long as you endure to the end, you already know you got a crown of glory waiting for you. And there's so much other infinite rewards that's coming. You know, and those rewards for the elect is basically going to be way different than the rewards for the 2/3 in the kingdom. Because even though the whole nation of Israel going to get blessed on the next side, it's like the elect is going to have things that the 2/3 will not have. You know. So, and then at the same time, it's like you already see, you know, the way this world is going right now. It's already circling down the drain. So, you know, it's best to pretty much stick in this truth and stay where you at right now, because a lot of things is really happening in the economy, and it's just getting worse from there. But what motivated me to make this video is because, of course, like, you have it to where a lot of people in this world, you know, like Jake, for the most part, they feel like when they reach a certain age in their life, especially when they went through a lot of bullshit, you know, because like we all go through curses and things of that nature. So Jake figures that because they going through a lot of bullshit in their life, that they want to go as far as being a complete full-fledged nigga. And with that being said, Jake being a nigga, they want to go as far as being completely insanely wicked, right? And they feel like the young years of their life, they want to continuously be a straight up you know, rebel, like a menace to society, right? So they just doing all type of wickedness out there. You know, they selling drugs, they pretty much gang banging, they fucking around with hoes. You know, they just spending the rest of their youth being a full-fledged nigga. And what they fail to realize is that your body's a temple of the Most High. You know, they completely going off, eating abominable foods, you know, having dreadlocks, smoking weed, doing all type of drugs, you know, just excessively drinking, and this is how they waste the years of their life. And then at the same time, now when they get old, you know, and they on a wheelchair and all that shit, when they in the fucked up conditions, that's the time they want to seek the Most High. You know, and they in prison as well. You see, that's the time when Jake want to seek the Most High. It's no different than how a woman in this Christian church, like, talking about these dirty ass Keishas from when they spend the rest of their youth in their high school, or even some of them start being a whore in middle school. But usually high school is like, you know, the start of it, because that's usually like the years that they glow up. You start to see, you know, them being whores, and I'm talking about the nation of our woman, you know, so-called Black, Hispanic, Native American woman. They ended up being whores, and they end up going as far as, you know, playing the field. And with that being said, you know, they go on that cock carousel, and eventually they spend like, you know, a couple of years of their life, like a decade, you know, and some change. So like they're being a whore from high school all the way up to, you know, like let's say in their late 20s or early 30s, and usually like when they hit the wall, like around their mid 30s or so, that's when they want to go to a Christian church and be pretty much you know, on the path of being a righteous woman, where they want to go as far as trying to find a man that they can settle down with after they look all ugly and used up. You see, after they reach the peak of it, you know, their beauty, and it fades away, and now they hit the wall. Now that's the time they want to seek a man, you know. And the men that they rejected, that's the men that they're gonna be the first to reach out to. And you see, and that's no different as to a nigga that basically gives himself to the Most High when he's in a situation that is pretty much considered like a predicament that he can't get out of, like him getting a RICO case on his ass, him about to do some time in prison, you know, him about to pretty much, you know, he's like paralyzed or so, you know, he's in certain predicaments where at that point, you know, he can't be a nigga anymore. So, you know, he at that point he has no choice but to run to the Heavenly Father, you know, at least to try to make things right. And at that point it's too late. See? And that's why you have to take cheerfully when the Most High chastises you, in a sense, because the way he's going to chastise these people in this world is going to be horrific, you know, because they think they're getting away with what the wickedness they're doing, you know, and whatever blessings that Satan give them, they think that they have it all. But when you see how these people are going to suffer in the end, like Wisdom of Solomon, I believe it was the 5th chapter, where it says how these people are going to be like, what has pride profited us? You know, that's what they were saying at the time of Jacob's trouble. You know, all those guys that been doing all the type of wickedness, dating all these, you know, fine-ass women in society, and then these bitches out here doing their wickedness, you know, they're playing, you know, all these games and going out dating this guy and that guy and playing the field, being a 304. You know, they're gonna meet their judgment too. And the wickedness is not gonna be in their control anymore. It's gonna go out of their control. They're gonna go through so much wickedness in that time. They're gonna wish they were righteous, you know. Even though when the Most High punishes his men, it's like, you gotta think of it this way. You know, you still got food to eat, you still got something to drink, you still got, you know, access to, you know, good clothes, you still got, you know, access to like certain amenities. When Jacob's trouble hits and these people get afflicted and the Most High tries them that dwell upon the earth, that I'm talking about the people that amongst his people that didn't serve him, didn't do what's right, and even these other nations that, you know, that can't really serve him anyway. You see, the Lord gonna really jack them up, you know. He's gonna really do them dirty. He's gonna do them dirty in the time of famine. He's gonna do them dirty during the time of martial law. He's gonna really like clamp down on them. And you see, there's no redemption for them. There's no like chance of survival for them. And even if they survive, you know, the last, you know, plague will be like the missiles hitting. And at that point, it's going to be meant for the heathens, the low-level heathens, and for the 2/3 of our people. And this is Ecclesiastes, or the book of Sirach, chapter 9, verse 11. It says, verse 11, it says, Envy not the glory of a sinner, for thou knowest not what shall be his end. And you see, that's the thing that a lot of our people got to understand. You know, you have these celebrities, you got, you know, these jakes amongst our people that sold out, you know, and being a celebrity, you know, you're selling out on a higher level in a sense. But for the most part, they're in the world, they doing all type of wickedness, probably doing adultery, you know, times 2 or 4, because, you know, they got more money, so that means that they got more privileges to do more wickedness. And, you know, they're doing all type of you know, satanic rituals in that Hollywood industry, you know, when they're a famous celebrity. And you see, you might think that, oh, they living it up, they getting broadcasted on TV, you know, they advertised out there, you know, you see their face a lot, you see them making moves of their life and things of that nature, going on these world tours, and they're just pretty much privileged slaves, that's all. You know, yeah, that's the privileges they got. You know, they got the nice amenities, the nice homes they living in, nice cars they drive and flexing with, which is not really even truly theirs, because they pretty much are in debt that, you know, you're not really aware of, but they just, of course, keep it on the low until it gets exposed. And then at some point, you know, Esau, when he's done with them and he no longer needs them, he's gonna replace them with another desperate Israelite who sold out. And that's the time when the celebrity that has been betrayed, that's when they want to come out and say that they've been abused by the industry and all that shit, and only a very few people gonna believe him, you know, or her, that's speaking out against the industry of Hollywood. And you see, the thing is that, yeah, you don't know what the end is, because you know, the end for that sinner, they're gonna probably end up like another Bill Cosby, you know, Michael Jackson, or you know, these celebrities that end up like exposing the industry for being wronged, and they end up going as far as probably even getting killed for speaking out against, you know, the industry and revealing the secrets of the industry. And you don't ultimately know how the Most High gonna judge them, because, you know, for them engaging in all the witchcraft, for being in Hollywood, you know, for pushing the witchcraft amongst your own people, you don't know how the Most High gonna judge them. So that's something that they have to consider. Cause just because they die early don't mean that, you know, that the Most High ain't gonna bring them back for them to die in the second death in Jacob's trouble. You know what I mean? When the missiles hit. And you don't know how the Most High finna set their judgment up at some point in their life. So this is the reason why you have to really, you know, rejoice that the Most High is dealing with you. And I don't think a lot of people really understand that the power of the universe is actually, you know, dealing with you. That's some power that you can't, you know, fathom. And you're above these low-level celebrities, because like I said, these low-level celebrities that sold out to Satan, look at the shit that they're doing. It may seem like, yeah, that they got an advantage, that they dealing with all these hoes or whatever, they look like beautiful women and all that, but they're defiled for the most part. And these niggas have low-level mindset, because it's like, if you have all this money, why the hell you need to deal with used up women? Why don't you just get a virgin woman in a different country if you have the right mindset? You see, some of these niggas, they don't think right, you know. And for the most part, you know, they're not really rich. Like I said, they just got privileges in a sense. And at some point, all the riches that they have, you best believe that's going to be given to the men of the Lord in the end. Because all the shit that they have, that's borrowed shit. That shit is mostly loaned to them. And verse 12 says, delight not in the thing that the ungodly have pleasure in, but remember, they shall not go unpunished unto their grave. So that's heavy right there, because that shows you that no matter what wickedness, these hoes do, all these people do, whether it be a local hole or your local hole around the, projects and around the street in your neighborhood, to the high level celebrity. And of course, the celebrity is going to get the worst judgment, because shit, you dabbling into real witchcraft, and you did all that to escape the curses, to make yourself feel like you're on a better, a higher floor. But hey, there's gonna be a rude awakening for you Israelites that pretty much went into the Hollywood industry. That's the news that I got for y'all. And when the Most High judges you, you were gonna think that it was better off that you got the judgment early than later. And that's what a lot of people of our nation don't understand, is that when you postpone the judgment, it's like a loan. When you postpone it, and it ends up going as far as, the loan ends up defaulting on your payment plan, that's going to negatively affect your credit score. And that right there is going to really, hurt your credit. So now how much more when the Most High, sees that you trying to duck your, weed from his judgment. The fact that you're dabbling into more wickedness, trying to find a covering, like you're going to be safe. You're eventually going to get hit with some judgment that you can't get out of it. When that hits you, it's going to be very devastating. You see, people put the Most High in a box, think that the Most High is going to always, allow you to escape. And that's what you niggas get wrong. And in Proverbs chapter 23, verse 17, it says, let not thine heart envy sinners, but be thou in the fear of the Lord all day long. For surely there is an end, and thine expectation shall not be cut off. Hear thou, my son, and be wise, and guide thine heart in the way. Right, and you see, that's the beauty of wisdom, is that when you understand this truth, you're going to understand that this is the best, way to be in. Of course, you got to just pray and hope that the Lord keeps you in this path. Because you see, why you envy the sinner, because he got amenities in his life that you wish you had. He got nice clothes, he has access to beautiful women, he got it to where probably got, even like some just vacation that he or she goes to. Shit, that's some little shit that these people have. But for you serving the Lord, shit, he may just very well give you like spiritual power, divine protection during Jacob's trouble. You got it to where you're going to be doing things that these people haven't done on this side. You see, the Lord going to do miracles with you and use you as a vessel to exercise those miracles. You see, a lot of people don't really understand, man. When you serve the Lord, he's going to engineer you and program you to be a better you. You know what I mean? And right now, you only see the power through like understanding the precepts and teaching the Bible, for how it's supposed to be taught. and you cutting false doctrines and all that stuff, you see the power in terms of breaking people's thoughts and breaking people down mentally and psychologically. But very soon you're going to see a physical manifestation of that power, and you're going to see the full illustration of how this this truth really is. Because right now there's just power with just teaching the doctrine, but very soon there's going to be a physical manifestation of that power, and that's of course called spiritual power. Another thing too, on the bright side of mention, is serving the Lord in your youth. It separates you from these other guys that call themselves men in the world, because a real man is a man that serves the Lord, because you're going to be the best man there is. Pretty much the law, statute, commandments of the Bible, this whole truth, this is the best programming for your spirit. This is the cheat code to making yourself a better you. And one thing about niggas, I'll tell you, and even bitches too, when they end up getting judged for their wickedness, the first thing they gonna say? They're gonna say they wish they had someone to guide them the right way, just so that they won't have to feel the pressure of being in judgment. But imagine you serving the Lord and you seeing their end, and you're like, wow, you just hope that that you continue to stay on that path, and you're gonna be like, yeah, you're glad that you never went down the route that those sinners went down. You feel me? So yeah, with that, hope me listen edifying. I'd say calling Allah Yahweh Hashem Yashab Hashem Rakakadash. Savannah to the Apostle Elsbury, most Sundays I teach him hopeful life. Shalom.